Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the Narcissist Exposed channel. I hope you're all doing well and taking care of your hearts. Today, we're diving into one of the most confusing and painful experiences anyone can face: why narcissists can seem so incredibly kind at first, only to turn cold, cruel, and unrecognizable later on. If you've ever wondered how someone who once seemed to adore you could suddenly treat you like you never mattered, this video is for you. Stay with me until the end, because once you understand what's really happening behind their mask, you'll never fall for this manipulation again. At first, they seem almost perfect, kind, attentive, and utterly charming. They listen with interest, mirror your emotions, and make you feel seen in a way that feels rare. You start to think you've finally met someone who truly understands you, but what you don't know yet is that this warmth isn't love, it's strategy. Narcissists don't connect to care, they connect to control. And the very sweetness that draws you in is the same mask they'll later use to hurt you. In the beginning, every text feels exciting. They compliment your mind, your smile, even your silence. You feel chosen, adored, special. But what's really happening is assessment. The narcissist is studying you, your values, your insecurities, your triggers. Every detail becomes data. Every reaction becomes a future weapon. What looks like affection is actually reconnaissance. It's not romance, it's research for emotional domination later. Psychologists call this stage love bombing. It's intense, consuming, and addictive. You're flooded with attention and praise, the kind that activates your dopamine and oxytocin. You feel safe, even euphoric. But love bombing is not love, it's manipulation disguised as connection. It's how the narcissist hooks you emotionally before revealing who they really are. Once they're sure of your attachment, the shift begins. The shift is subtle at first. Maybe they criticize you lightly, then laugh it off as a joke. Maybe they start pulling away, responding slower, seeming distracted. You question yourself. Did I do something wrong? That confusion is intentional. Narcissists thrive on emotional imbalance. It makes you chase the validation they once gave freely. They turn kindness into a lever, pulling it away just to see how far you'll reach. Soon, the warmth that once felt endless turns cold. You find yourself walking on eggshells, trying to get back to that initial magic. You replay every conversation, searching for the mistake that caused the change. But there is no mistake, there's only the cycle. Narcissists aren't unpredictable, they're patterned. The kindness wasn't permanent, it was bait. Once you're hooked, cruelty becomes the new control. Their cruelty isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. The silent treatment, the subtle withdrawal, the dismissive tone. Other times it's sharp mockery, gaslighting, or outright blame. You'll notice that every act of cruelty is followed by a breadcrumb of affection, just enough to keep you from leaving. This hot and cold pattern isn't random. It's conditioning. They're teaching you to crave their approval like oxygen. What's truly devastating is how their cruelty makes you doubt your own reality. They'll say things like, "You're overreacting," or "You're too sensitive." Their goal is to make you question your own perception. When they're kind again, you feel relief. Not because things are better, but because you've learned to measure peace by the absence of pain. That's how the narcissist wins. Not through love, but confusion. Why do they do this? Because empathy, for them, is foreign. They mimic emotions without feeling them. Their kindness is performance art, a role they play to secure admiration and control. When you begin to expect real intimacy, they panic. Vulnerability threatens their fragile ego, so they destroy the connection before you can see behind the mask. Cruelty in their world is self-protection disguised as dominance. When you confront them about the shift, they twist the story. Suddenly, they're the victim, and you're crazy, clingy, or impossible to please. They accuse you of being the problem so they can keep the illusion of superiority. Their cruelty becomes justified in their mind. You'll find yourself apologizing just to restore peace, not realizing that peace was never the goal. Control was. The reason their transformation feels so shocking is that it's not gradual, it's strategic. Narcissists build a false self-image, charming, generous, enlightened. Once you're emotionally invested, they discard that mask. The cruelty you see is the real them, the person they hide until they're sure you won't easily leave. They don't lose interest, they lose the need to pretend. In private, their cruelty can look like neglect. They stop asking about your day. They stop noticing your effort. Your successes annoy them because they threaten their sense of superiority. Your failures please them because they restore their control. Narcissists view relationships as hierarchies, not partnerships. Someone must always be on top, and they refuse to be anything but. When you try to talk about their behavior, they don't listen. Instead, they deflect, mock, or twist your words. They weaponize your vulnerability. The more open you are, the more ammunition they have. You realize that honesty, which used to bring you closer, now becomes dangerous. With a narcissist, transparency doesn't build trust, it builds targets. You'll notice their kindness returns only when they sense you're slipping away. Suddenly, they're attentive again, apologetic even. "I've been under stress," they'll say. Or "you mean everything to me." It feels sincere, but it's not. It's a tactic to reset your hope. Once you relax, the cycle restarts. Every apology is a doorway back into the same trap. Their cruelty isn't always emotional. It can be social. They may subtly damage your reputation, sharing private details to make you look unstable. Or they may isolate you from friends and family by claiming those people don't really understand you. This isolation strengthens their control. You start to depend on them for comfort, unaware that they're the source of your pain. A narcissist's kindness in public can be breathtaking, compliments, generosity, charm. But behind closed doors, the switch flips. Their cruelty becomes more visible only to you. This dual reality is intentional. They want others to see them as loving so that if you ever speak out, you look irrational. It's a psychological prison. No one believes your story because they've seen only the mask. Over time, you start minimizing your needs to avoid conflict. You stop asking for reassurance. You start blaming yourself for the distance. This is exactly what they want. The less you expect, the easier you are to control. They train you to accept crumbs by making crumbs feel like feasts. Their cruelty doesn't break you all at once. It slowly starves your self-worth. The most confusing part is that you still remember the kind version of them. You keep hoping that person will return, but that version never truly existed. It was a projection designed for you. Narcissists mirror your best qualities, your empathy, your warmth, your love, and then use them to manipulate you. The kindness you miss was your own reflection shining through their disguise. Their cruelty intensifies when they sense your independence returning. If you start setting boundaries, they'll double down, mocking you, guilt-tripping you, or threatening to leave. Their fear isn't losing you, it's losing control. Independence exposes their irrelevance, and to a narcissist, irrelevance feels like death. So they fight it with every weapon they have: shame, silence, or rage. When you finally pull away, their kindness returns once more. This time, it feels different, more desperate, more polished. They might promise therapy, change, or even marriage, but real transformation takes humility, and humility is what narcissists lack. They use promises like currency to buy back control. Once the balance is restored, cruelty resumes as if nothing ever happened. Psychologically, their cruelty is self-preservation. Deep down, they're terrified of being ordinary, replaceable, or unloved. Their entire identity depends on superiority. When they feel small, they inflate themselves by shrinking you. Every insult, every withdrawal, every manipulation, it's an attempt to escape their own self-hatred by projecting it onto you. In truth, their kindness and cruelty are two sides of the same coin. Both serve the same purpose: control. Kindness hooks you, cruelty chains you. When they sense your resistance, they flip between the two until you're too emotionally exhausted to tell the difference. That's why victims often stay longer than they should, not because they're weak, but because they're trauma-bonded. A trauma bond forms when kindness and cruelty alternate unpredictably. Your brain begins associating relief with the abuser's approval. You crave their validation the way an addict craves a fix. The bond isn't love, it's survival. Narcissists understand this instinctively. They don't just manipulate emotions, they manipulate biology. Breaking free means detoxing from that chemical cycle. When you finally go no contact, they may act indifferent or they may panic. Some launch smear campaigns. Others try to hoover you back with sweet words. Their reaction depends on whether they believe they can still control your emotions. The silence that empowers you feels unbearable to them. Without your reactions, their ego collapses in on itself. In their mind, relationships are transactions. They gave you charm, and you gave them attention. Once you stop paying in validation, the charm stops being profitable. That's why cruelty follows kindness. It's not emotional whiplash. It's a business model. When they can't extract supply, they punish the source until control is restored or interest is lost. Their cruelty escalates when they sense exposure. If you start telling the truth, they'll paint you as unstable. If you set boundaries, they'll call you selfish. This isn't coincidence, it's reputation management. Narcissists can't survive without admiration, so they rewrite reality to stay the hero. Cruelty becomes their way of rewriting your story before you can tell it. You'll know the cycle is breaking when their cruelty stops shocking you, when you no longer chase their approval or crave their apologies, when their silence feels like peace, not punishment. That's when they lose their power. Narcissists don't fear your anger, they fear your indifference, because indifference means their control no longer works. Healing begins with clarity. Recognizing that their kindness was calculated doesn't make you foolish, it makes you aware. The fact that you believed in their goodness means your empathy is intact. Don't lose it, refine it. Kindness is still your strength, it just needs boundaries. Love without self-respect isn't love. It's sacrifice dressed as loyalty. You might look back and miss the person you thought they were. That's natural. Grieving the illusion is part of recovery. But remember, the version of them that seemed loving was created for you. You were never loved by who they are. You were loved by who they pretended to be. Mourning that truth hurts, but it's also what sets you free. When narcissists turn cruel, it's not a loss of affection. It's the removal of disguise. You're seeing their true emotional baseline: envy, emptiness, and fear. Cruelty is the only language they trust, because tenderness feels unsafe to them. They destroy what they can't control, and genuine love by nature is uncontrollable. If you could see behind their mask, you'd find fragility, not strength. Their cruelty is armor against shame. Their arrogance is camouflage for fear. Every insult hides insecurity. Every manipulation hides self-loathing. Understanding this doesn't excuse them, but it explains why expecting empathy from them is like expecting sunlight from a shadow. The best revenge is not anger, it's clarity. Narcissists want chaos, because chaos means relevance. When you respond with calm detachment, they fade into irrelevance. You reclaim your peace not by proving your worth, but by realizing it was never theirs to define. Their cruelty loses its bite the moment you stop needing their kindness. You start rebuilding by relearning safety. Safety isn't found in grand gestures. It's found in consistency, the friend who listens without judgment, the routine that calms your nervous system, the hobby that reconnects you to joy. Healing isn't loud, it's quiet repetition, until peace becomes your new normal. That's where their control finally dies. Some days you'll wonder if they ever think of you. They do, but not the way you think. They remember you as supply, as a reflection that once made them feel powerful. Their missing you isn't emotional, it's transactional. They miss what you gave, not who you are. You can't fill a void that was never meant to hold love. Their next partner may receive the same treatment, kindness, then cruelty. You might see the same patterns play out and feel a mix of pain and validation. It's not proof that you weren't enough. It's proof that their script never changes. You escaped the story. Someone else is reading your old lines. But you've moved on to a new book. Recovery means learning to trust again, but not blindly. You start asking different questions. Does this person respect my boundaries when I say no? Do they listen when I'm quiet? Real love doesn't require performance. It allows imperfection. You stop confusing chaos with chemistry. You stop confusing intensity with intimacy. You also stop apologizing for being sensitive. Sensitivity is awareness. It's how you noticed the subtle shifts, the unspoken threats. It's what saved you, even when it hurt. Narcissists mistake sensitivity for weakness because they fear what it reveals, the truth. Your empathy isn't the problem. Their inability to honor it is. When narcissists turn cruel, they think they're breaking you. What they don't realize is that they're exposing themselves. Each act of cruelty is a confession, a glimpse into their emptiness. Eventually, you stop taking it personally. Their cruelty says nothing about your value and everything about their pain. As time passes, their charm fades even in their own reflection. They become prisoners of their own performance, forever chasing applause, forever running from shame. You, meanwhile, learn to sit with silence. You learn to breathe again. You learn that peace, once unfamiliar, now feels like home. That's the true reversal of power. Their cruelty taught you boundaries, self-respect, discernment, the lessons they'll never master. You realize that being too kind isn't a flaw. It's a gift that just needed wiser stewardship. The softness you once offered freely, you now offer selectively. Not everyone deserves front-row access to your empathy. One day, you'll look back and feel nothing but understanding. You'll see that their kindness and cruelty were performances from the same fragile actor. You'll stop asking why and start saying thank you, not for what they did, but for what you learned. The person who once broke you became the unintentional teacher of your strength. When people ask what happened, you'll smile gently and say, "I saw the truth." You won't need to explain further, because truth speaks quietly but powerfully. It's visible in your peace, your posture, your new standard of love. You no longer chase validation, you embody it. If they ever circle back, claiming to have changed, remember, true change is shown, not said. It's consistent action over time, not poetic texts or teary calls. A reformed narcissist doesn't ask for trust, they earn it slowly. Anything faster is just another performance. You've seen that play. You don't need to audition again. Their cruelty once felt personal. Now it feels diagnostic. You see patterns where you once saw pain. You can spot manipulation in its early stages. That awareness is your armor. You don't harden into bitterness, you soften into wisdom. You become compassionate without being gullible. Your story isn't about what they did, it's about what you became. You went from reactive to reflective, from fearful to free. You learned that love without respect is dependency, and that peace without boundaries is temporary. You rebuilt yourself, not to prove them wrong, but to prove yourself right about who you could be. Narcissists crave control. The day you stop reacting is the day you break the spell. You realize their cruelty never had depth. It only had volume. They were loud, not powerful. You were quiet, not weak. Silence, used wisely, is your greatest defense. It's the sound of their control dissolving. Healing from a narcissist is not about revenge. It's about reclamation. You reclaim your time, your voice, your softness, your self-respect. Every act of self-care becomes rebellion against their cruelty. Every boundary becomes an anthem, and every moment of peace is proof that you won. Their kindness once blinded you. Now, your clarity shields you. You can appreciate charm without surrendering judgment. You can recognize confidence without confusing it with arrogance. You see through masks, not because you're cynical, but because you're awake. Awareness is not paranoia, it's protection. The truth is, narcissists are addicted to admiration, but allergic to intimacy. That's why their kindness feels electric but fleeting. Intimacy demands vulnerability, and vulnerability terrifies them, so they sabotage closeness the moment it feels real. Their cruelty is their escape route from emotional exposure, but their escape doesn't lead to peace, it leads to emptiness. Each new admirer, each new conquest, each new performance only deepens the void. They keep running, but the shadow follows. Meanwhile, you walk steady, healed, and free, carrying the quiet power they mistook for weakness. So why do narcissists seem so kind at first, and then turn cruel? Because the kindness was never love, it was bait. Their cruelty isn't a change of heart, it's a revelation of who they truly are. But here's the real twist. Every act of cruelty only makes your eventual freedom more powerful. You escape the illusion, and that's something they can never do. If this video helped you see things more clearly, or gave you a sense of peace about your past, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Your engagement helps this message reach others who might still be trapped in confusion, searching for answers just like you once were. Remember, their cruelty was never your fault, and your kindness was never a weakness. Healing starts when you stop chasing their approval and start protecting your peace. You deserve love that doesn't hurt, attention that doesn't manipulate, and kindness that doesn't disappear. Until next time, stay strong, stay grounded, and never forget your worth.